Hey everyone, it's Miss Spencer. Today we'll be creating and interpreting line plots. The chart to the right shows how many colored pencils each student has. Use the information to create a line plot. Then use the line plot to answer the questions on the next slide. So we can use the chart on the right to help create our line plot. Let's start by creating a number line. We're going to start the number line at the least amount of colored pencils a student has. So if we look at the numbers, we can see that the smallest number in our chart is 0. Davi has 0 pencils. So we're going to start our number line at 0. Now let's find the number of colored pencils that's the most. So we're going to look in our chart and see that 4 colored pencils that Leah has is the most colored pencils that a student has. So we're going to continue our number line by 1 until we get to the number 4. Now we have enough numbers on our number line that we can plot each point. Let's start with Leah. Leah has 4 colored pencils. So we're going to put an X above the 4 to represent how many colored pencils Leah has. Then we're going to check off her name. Zaza has 2 colored pencils. So we'll put an X above 2 and cross off her name. Destiny has 3 colored pencils. So we'll put an X above 3 to represent the number of colored pencils Destiny has. Amarty has 1 colored pencil. So we'll put an X above 1 to represent the number of colored pencils Amarty has. Davi has 0 colored pencils, but we're going to put an X above 0 to represent the number of colored pencils Davi has. Harrigan has 2 colored pencils. Well, if we look at our line plot, we can see there's already an X above 2. So we need to put the X that represents the number of colored pencils Harrigan has above that X that's already there. This means that 2 students have 2 colored pencils. Now we're going to use this line plot to answer questions on the next slide. What is the most amount of colored pencils a person has? So we're going to look at our number or our line plot. We're going to try to find the biggest number that has at least 1 X above it, and that would be 4. So Leah had 4 colored pencils. That's the most amount of colored pencils the student has. And we can see that because it's at the end of our number line that has an X above it. So we know that the most amount of colored pencils a student has is 4 pencils. Now we're going to find the least amount of colored pencils a student has. So same thing, we're going to look at our line plot and find the smallest number that has at least 1 X above it. That would be 0. Remember that Davi had 0 colored pencils. So that's represented by the X above 0. The least amount of colored pencils that a person has is 0 pencils. What number of pencils do most students have? So this is going to be the one that has the most number of X's above it. Well, 2 colored pencils has 2 X's above it, meaning that 2 students have 2 colored pencils. So the number of colored pencils that most students have is going to be 2 pencils. Finally, if the total amount of pencils were redistributed so that everyone had the same amount, how many pencils would each person have? So that means we're going to take all the pencils that are here and we're going to put them in a container. We're going to shake them up, and then we're going to share out the number of pencils so that each student has the same amount of pencils. So what we're going to do is we're going to plot each of these. We're going to use each of the points that we plotted, and we're going to add them up to figure out how many total pencils we have. Well, we'll start here at the beginning. One person had 0 pencils. Another person had 1 pencil. One person had 2 pencils, and another person had 2 pencils. Since there's 2 X's above 2, we need to add 2 times. Now, a student had 3 pencils, so we'll add 3 here. And then finally, one student had 4 pencils, so we're going to add 4 here. And we're trying to figure out the total number of pencils that all the students have together. So when we add 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, we get 12. So there are 12 colored pencils total between all the students. So if we took all those pencils, we now have 12 pencils in a basket, and now we're going to give students pencils, the same amount of pencils until there are no pencils left. To show this in an equation, what we're going to do is take the total number of pencils that we have, which is 12, and we're going to divide it by the number of people that there are. So there's 6 people, and we know that because there's 6 X's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When we divide, we're going to find out how many pencils each student is going to get. 12 pencils divided between 6 people is meaning that 2 pencils per person. So each person is going to get 2 pencils.